Okay. Hold the phone. What up, what up, what up? Yeah, restore my page, please. Okay, good. Okay, we're there. Okay. And let me take my stream of me. Oh, sorry. Hello, hello, hello. I was totally cut off there. That was crazy. Your channel. And I got another live. Whoop. Wacky. Okay. Okay. So.
Hey man, can I get your thoughts?
Sure, what?
What do you have?
Okay. This is wacky. I was talking about see, I might actually draw conclusions there and say that I was saying some pretty salty stuff about some interesting characters, some of the known characters, and my computer just crashed. Just like out of nowhere while I'm doing a live stream. So that's funny. Yeah, that happens all the time, I'm sure. And well, actually, you know what? Ever since I updated to Windows 10, it has been a regular thing that my computer crashes whenever the hell it feels like it. So yeah, I mean, there's that thing. It never happened when I had Windows 7 Pro. Never. I don't think it ever happened, and it's happened like pretty consistently since I upgraded to Windows 10. Upgraded to Windows 10, and my computer can handle it. Like I've got enough juice, and I've done some improvements to my computer. Okay, so this is one more thing I wanted to discuss before I get into the Sustainable Development Goals. And I saw this making the rounds on social media yesterday, and you can see here that this guy's got a "Make America Great" hat again on, and you see here that there's this different terminology for what the person does based upon the tone of their skin. That flies in the face of literally everything that happened over the summer when we were told that all the Black Lives Matter riots. And by the way, Black Lives Matter, sure. I mean, like, what? Of course, I didn't have a problem with the idea that Black Lives Matter, and to even suggest that I would be just ridiculous. That would just mean that you don't know me. But there are Marxists. They said that their intentions are to bring about Marx ideas, right? They said that. I didn't say that. That was like the leader of the Black Lives Matter chapter somewhere, and I think it's been said actually a couple times, but they say that. So I have a problem with communism. I have a problem with Marxism. I have a problem with Agenda 2030, which seems to be neo-communism / Marxism with a technocratic corporatist elite at the helm, and everybody else gets the universal basic income. That's where we're going. It's not even up for debate. The only thing they're debating is the details. And that's what I have been saying over and over and over and over again. And I really want people to get, you need to know that the people that are doing what they're doing, in government at the least, in public health at the least, their reason to bend the truth and do the things that they are doing is perfectly in line with trying to get countries under Agenda 2030. And I did a whole video talking about how the Sustainable Development Goals, in and of themselves, Gavi, Bill Gates' organization, did a chart telling you that out of the Sustainable Development Goals, 14 of them require or are dependent upon or hinge on mass vaccination. Like, and it's because they think it's healthy. Like, there is no question about vaccination. Vaccines are the new orthodoxy. They are the new God. We all bow down to the house of vaccinations because they saved so many lives, and it even comes with this origin story where it saved all these lives. And look, if you read books about it, it turns out it's not exactly 100% accurate. And that's all I'm saying. I'm saying that the claims have been greatly exaggerated and the negative downside has been downplayed to such a point that they completely ignore it. And they ignore it so much that instead of actually addressing people's concerns, they buried that information. They shredded a bunch of it at the CDC, according to William Thompson. I think that was the guy's name that worked at the CDC. I think he still does, actually. And they they decided what we need to do is convince all the people to take vaccinations. Vaccine hesitancy is one of the biggest problems they have. So, how do you convince everyone that they need to get a vaccine and that vaccines are a normal part of life that should happen, I don't know, 2 times a year? Just for, I don't know, the common cold. That if you simply change some of the classifications for the way that you actually gauge that shit, makes it look like there's this super dangerous pandemic. But when you look at the actual numbers, the people being affected by it, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. And if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Do you know what I mean? Can we talk about that? No, they don't want to talk about it because they have this wonderful plan for the future that they're going to now force upon us, whether we like it or not. And in the background, the World Economic Forum is making all the details for how that's actually going to work. They're creating the superstructure for that all to work for all the people everywhere in the world at the same time through the UN and the Sustainable Development. It sounds insane, right? It sounds insane. But look at this. Protest if you're white, riot if you're black or brown. What can we infer from that? Okay? That the protests in the summer were all considered riots. Except nobody on the news called them a riot. Very few people, and if they did, they were condemned. They called them mostly peaceful protesters that also just happened to burn stores, but it was righteous burning, and break windows, but it was righteous destruction, and steal things from the masses or whatever. Like you would hear people say the most outlandish shit coming out of stores justifying why they were stealing shit. And it all goes back to, because there was slavery at some point in time a couple hundred years ago. And, we still had the remnants in the last 100 years. But, look. There was white people rioting just as much in the summer with the Black Lives Matter protest. It didn't matter if you were black or white. These were people that were just out to cause destruction because they want to change the world, because that's the way a Marxist would think about things. It's power, okay? There's the oppressors and the oppressed. And so everything that the oppressed does is righteous because it's against an oppressor, okay? So, when these people go, and by the way, there was black and brown people, a lot of them in the crowd. I can't even believe I have to say this shit. In the crowd that actually marched on Washington. How can you make this equivalence? It has nothing to do with reality unless you're trying to shape a narrative of reality that people can just kind of like you're either one of the good guys and you believe us, or you're one of the awful racist nationalists or whatever. It's so simplistic, the thinking and the messaging. And the fact that people are buying it. That's what I'm trying to get through to people about. I can't believe people are buying it. It's so not true. Racism is... Are you telling me that racism is more of a problem today than it was 50 years ago? 40, 30, 20? Are you mad? Really? Do you know when racists start fighting? When they choose ideological camps. That's when they start fighting. When they are forced into a belief system that pits them against their enemies. And then they start to fight. But if you said, I don't want to be in this group and I don't want to be in that group. I just want to be like I want to be self-sufficient, and I want to have friends, and I want to like live life, and I don't want to make judgment values based on people's skin color, but I might do so based on the way that they dress. Like, are you telling me you don't make value judgments based on the way that people dress? What kind of delusional world are you living in? Really? If you were walking down the street and you saw a guy in a beautifully tailored suit laying on the ground under a blanket, wouldn't you go, that doesn't seem right? What's that guy, clean-cut guy in a beautiful suit, doing begging for change on the street, sleeping on a grate? It wouldn't make sense, because we make value judgments based on initial impressions. Now we're being told that those initial impressions are really deep-seated racism all the time. Just for white people, by the way. Just for white people, apparently. Now, being a white person, if you can even call me that, I don't even... Like, even white people identify between different groups. Oh, I'm from Germany, I'm from Sweden, I'm from England, whatever. But when you have, like, soccer clubs, they don't fight until they actually got something to fight about. Oh, you're from Germany, I'm from the UK. Let's hooliganize. Let's do it. We're both white, it doesn't matter, but we've been put into these camps, we've been put into these clubs where we're pitted against each other. And so you have to choose a side. And so why is the media... And why do people that post stuff like this, why are they so intent on making people choose sides? Because the Black Lives Matter people are Marxist, and that's what they believe. They literally believe that's how the world works. It doesn't matter if it's not true. They've decided it is true, and then they go out there and they get brainwashed at college or university where they absorb all this literature that basically makes the point based on historical precedents that this is the historical legacy of those precedents, right? It's not. That doesn't explain things. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Oh, how do I do that? I don't want him to pop up there. It doesn't explain things, and so let me just read a couple things because I found this fascinating. And if you'll indulge me, I'm just going to read this, okay? You know, I saw this floating around yesterday, and I ignored it because it is the literal inversion of reality. But the people who shared it seemed perfectly rational. Why? All summer at BLM protests, they were given carte blanche to burn and destroy and loot and steal, and totally given a pass by the media and establishment who literally encouraged the whole thing because social justice. Is everything I'm saying there making sense? I hope so. But then yesterday, like a freaking million people descended on DC and 4 of them died. And they're being framed as terrorists when there doesn't appear to be much sign of any actual terror, just disobedience. Before you bring up that some weapons were found or whatever the impulse might be, don't underestimate that it justifies nothing. There should be a word there. It justifies nothing. Even if it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they found some weapons there. Did they get used? How easy is it to plant something and then say, hey, oh, we found these weapons here. They were definitely up to no good. We had to stop them. And these white people are just trying to... They're white supremacist nationalists. They want to take over the world. No, they just want people to actually hear them because people are ignoring them. And there is clear indications that the CCP actually had a lot to do with influencing the election. The thing that we're told is just, punishable by treason. You should have your head cut off if anybody helped to get you into the White House. We were told that for like 4 years about Russia and Donald Trump. Were we not? Yes, we were. Of course we were. But what was the real difference? The difference was some people believe that there should be more freedom for people, and people should be allowed to do more with their own money and decisions for their own lives moving forward than the people in power should tell them they have to do. And now, what are the people in power doing? They have completely robbed people of an election, and they propagandized them for 4 years, and they've split their families up from them, and now they're destroying their businesses based on a virus that appears to be much more about a political agenda and ideology than actual data or facts or evidence. Am I crazy? Oh man, I would love it if somebody was I go into this stuff and I get so frustrated. So yeah. It's because social justice. And then yesterday, like a freaking million people. So just consider the crowds. They could have done anything. With that many people there, if they were bent on nefarious deeds, they could have done pretty much anything. And they didn't. They just wanted to be heard. And for that crime, a few of them got killed. One of them literally executed for the whole world to see. And it was awful. Tragic. She was not threatening anyone. I showed you the video of the guy going up the stairs in my first part before I got cut off because I was talking about pedophilia. I think. I don't know. It just randomly happened, I suppose. Well, my computer does do that, so I will give you the benefit of the doubt there. But the people just walked in. It was overwhelming odds. You remember that movie V for Vendetta? What happens at the end? Everybody just shows up and walks right past the guards. That's kind of like what happened yesterday in Washington. But it's being portrayed like this violent, horrible action where somehow, for some reason, because the police are tainted, they're in on it. What does this cartoon mean? This cartoon means that the police are white supremacists. Are you picking this up? Not only are they white, what if it was a black cop that was holding the thing with the white versus black on it? Would he also let the white people through? Or is there a special line just for white people where they have special white investigators that hold up the... it's just so fucking stupid. I mean, I don't... Sorry. I keep myself under control. But, yeah. So before you bring up the weapons, it justifies nothing. In fact, you can't even say who brought that stuff with any certainty, but it certainly does not fit what actually happened on the ground. 1 million people, some broken windows, a little loitering, and a few of the accused died as a result. For optics, there is only one clear message being portrayed by the vast majority of the mainstream media. And that is what? Don't question authority. They're infallible. And you are only a nuisance. And if you do not do as you're told, you will be demonized for your insolence and insubordination. Nothing you say has any real relevance. And in fact, if you question anything you're being told, it's probably dangerous for you and everyone who doesn't think like us. So the message is very clear. The message is very clear. You try to do anything about the fact that the power structure just stole an election from you, is telling you they're going to destroy your livelihoods, and you are the problem. You are the problem. You could say whatever you want about Trump and his supporters and all that, but you cannot say that they were violent when they walked in there yesterday. They were not. It's absurd to think so. And then you go to the news reporting on this stuff, and all you see is this violence and chaos. Are you not allowed to defend yourself now if somebody swings at you? Are you not allowed to approach a Capitol where the people do not listen? The people inside, the elites, do not listen to the will of the people. There was 1 million people there. How many million people marches did you see for Joe Biden? I saw a lot for Black Lives Matter. And guess what? They let them do whatever, and in the next day, it was justified as righteous and wonderful and glorious on the news. Oh, they're just doing it because of historical injustices. Am I saying there was no historical injustices? Of course not. Of course I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, now we're all going to be slaves if we keep listening to this crap. We are all going to be slaves to a system if we keep buying this crap. But you see, it's got a really good PR package that comes along with it. Okay, so this is the problem that I talk too much. All right, let me just do this. I'm trying to understand this. I'm trying to understand this stuff. And I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you how I think that people come to think like this. It's because people go into education and they go into government and they go into NGOs and generally speaking, good, compliant people, they just, if they can and they're capable, they go into an area of life where you're helping people, right? You're part of an organization that claims to fight for human rights, or you're a lawyer, and so your whole job is just fighting for human rights, and obviously you have to accept that there were some historical injustices, and then you have this postmodernist way of thinking about things with critical race theory that basically is just about it's just about division. Again, it's like neo-Marxism. It's pitting groups against one another to jimmy for power because it's believed that there is a struggle, and the most important thing that is involved is getting out of the struggle and winning justice, social justice for perceived injustices. And so they throw facts and figures and things at you. And the problem with those things is when you really investigate them, and I would only say that go to Thomas Sowell, Larry Elder. Reading a couple books by those guys will set you straight. And you realize something, that when somebody has a lot of facts and evidence and presents like this grand debunking, like real debunking of a narrative, and it is a narrative, and they do it so well that all of a sudden they get called Uncle Toms. Why? Because they're not down with the narrative. You see, they aren't on team change the world. And we are all on team change the world right now. Whether we like it or not. God damn it. And I do have theories on how that happened. I think I need to do it differently. But let's just take a look at this. You can do this yourself, okay? Agenda 2030, SDGs. And if you're so inclined, you can even just do it whatever country you're in. Let's say that I'm in Canada. And look, this stuff is all out there. But what they're counting on is that people won't actually go and read it. Why? Because people they don't go read stuff. They look for confirmation bias all the time. Instead of, that's what social media has done to us. We just look for quick answers, quick, simple answers, so I can dismiss anything that doesn't fit my narrative, so I can get back to focusing on the things that I really want to do, which is self-indulgence a lot of the time. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say. But we feel like we work hard and we deserve something for our efforts. And so we want to indulge a little bit, and maybe we're just a little bit too comfortable as a society. And this is a major wake-up call for us. Because while we were sitting around telling the authorities they needed to do something to save us, to protect us, they did. They went and did that. They came up with the plan. This is the plan. How were they going to get to the plan if they didn't get everyone to comply with the very basic things that were standing in the way of its implementation? Private property, vaccine hesitation, a little bit of distrust in authority. And so we take these people and we put them in academies and schools, and they go there and they think and they ponder, and you know, there's not any real pressures on them or their lives. And so it's easy to come up with all these reasons that things are bad in people's lives, and how do we fix these things? Well, first you have to identify the problem. So what's the problem that people identify when they go into academia? Sorry. Well, first they'll say, hey, there's obviously a problem with racism. Right? We need to do something about the racism. Well, where does the racism come from? It's really just a form of bullying. Okay. Well, how do we solve bullying? Well, we need to get people to be a little more conformed to these ideas that if you just accept this guidebook of ideas for thinking about the world, you won't bully people based on the color of their skin or other attributes that make them different from you. And so you will solve the problem. But first, everybody has to agree. Everybody has to get along. Everybody has to be on the same page. We need consensus. And these are bureaucrats. And what are bureaucrats like? Bureaucrats are people, they crave group thinking. They thrive in group thinking because they spend their entire lives learning how to work in a group that has very specialized goals. And those goals tend to be to produce results, right? If you were going to be in a group and you wanted to actually stay in that group and maybe not be fired or whatever, you would have to produce results. So to produce results, you have to come up with strategies and methods for actually implementing things that you want. This is a bureaucratic mindset. Like, you have to agree so that you don't fight in the boardroom. You don't want to fight with people in the boardroom. You want to get along. You want to get along with the people in the boardroom. And everybody wants to agree and pat each other on the back because, oh, isn't that wonderful? We all agree. And, you know, if we could just get rid of the people that disagree because they're just so difficult to deal with. Why would you want to deal with somebody that's difficult? What? Well, that just goes back to bullying, and you're being a little bit too aggressive. We need to do something about the aggressive bullying, racism, and sexism and all this and that kind of stuff. So they sit down and they have to put some things on paper. They have to think about how do we deal with this stuff. They have to come up with a strategy. Right? They're separate from the way that everybody else lives their lives, which is to say, just like normal people. Most normal people just go to their jobs and then they go home and drink a couple beers and turn on the barbecue, make some burgers and play some video games, play some music. They want to go to a bar and have a couple beers with their friends. They want to take their kids to the park. They want to go to Disney World. They're not constantly obsessed with racism. How absurd. I mean, it's so stupid. The people that are obsessed with racism are the people that are trying to sell you their solutions for what they perceive to be the problem. A problem that is almost non-existent, but you see, it morphs. It becomes something bigger. And because these people don't live in the real world, they have this ability to look all over the world and think about how we need to solve these problems. Hey, if we can solve it here, we can solve it everywhere. And so they start thinking in these grand strategies for how to fix everything that they've identified as the problem. And you see, when they go to these jobs, there's no downside to endlessly talking about this stuff. They do it all the time. Just watch The Agenda with Steve Paikin. Just watch the RSA. They talk about it incessantly. They're literally obsessed with the kind of stuff. And that's how I became obsessed with this kind of stuff, because I don't want to talk about this shit. I don't. I just want my life back. I just want my kids to be able to go back to school. I want to know that I'm not going to be out of house and home in about a month or two because I disagreed with the orthodoxy. And so you have to explain to people why do I disagree with the orthodoxy? What is wrong? What's the problem? Why won't I just conform? Because we're not looking at things logically. And if we were looking at things logically, we would know that capitalism has been the single biggest producer of wealth in the world, bar none. And it's the way that we do things and get along. That's how we get along, by freely exchanging in business and by having opportunities and have those opportunities spread. But you can't fix the whole world by making these demands that equality be the only thing we have to worry about. And then you come up with crazy strategies like, well, we just need to give everybody fucking vaccines. What? What are you talking about? When did you come up with that? Oh, well, we got all this money from the pharmaceutical industry and they really thought that it was a good idea. Oh, did they? Did they think that? Well, why don't we just mandate it for everyone? It's crazy. It doesn't. So they want conformity, they want stability. And if you want to sit at the big table with these big thinkers, these people that are the most just out of all of us, out of all the sad, tired little sappy people like me that are whining about my white fragility. It's so stupid. If I ever met that woman, I would love to meet that woman. Robin DiAngelo, I think that's her name. So they sit at the big table, and the higher up you go, the better you get at basically conveying these ideas and solidifying your reasons for why bullying and racism are the single biggest issue we have facing the world today, you can keep expanding those ideas out, right? So now, what are we going to say? We're going to say that developing countries, because they're black and brown predominantly, well, they are the victims of racism and inequality, and it's mostly brought on by climate change because of the excesses of the white people in the West. Except there's not just white people in the West. Right there, it's the same thing that I was showing you with the Peter whatever Griffin, and it's like, oh, if you're white, you can do whatever you want. Walk into a store and just walk. I don't even pay for it. That's the perception that you're giving. The police would just be like, oh, did you take that? Did you pay for that stuff? No, officer, I didn't pay for this stuff, but it's okay, I'm white. Oh, as you were. Walk along, soldier, or something. It's just like, really? Who buys that? The left buys it. The left buys it to an extreme degree. Because, you see, if we can all just get along, if we can all just conform, if we can all stop the bullying, if we can stop the sexism and the racism and all the things that these people have blown up into these giant mountains out of anthills, you see, if they didn't do that, they couldn't do all this other stuff they want to do right now. Like, I don't know, towards Canada's 2030 Agenda National Strategy. On this page, introduction to Canada's 2030 Agenda National Strategy, what we heard, engage with Canadians, blah, 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 blah. Leave no one behind. Leave no one behind. Sustainable, sustainable, sustainable. Leave no one behind. If everything's going to be sustainable and we're going to leave no one behind, how are you going to do that? Can I just ask you that pretty simple question? We're going to stop making things, because that's what sustainability means, right? We're going to stop production. We're going to stop fossil fuels, which allow the production, which allow people to actually build themselves out of poverty, which is the single most important thing that the developing world needs is cheap energy. Because when people have cheap energy, they can actually build up infrastructure in their own communities, and they stop doing things that are harmful for their own direct environment and health. But don't think about things like that. That's just like colonist thinking or something. What? No, it's just a fact. And when I talk to people about the fact that I'm reading Michael Schellenberger's book. Oh, hang on a second. When I talk to people about the fact that I'm reading Michael Schellenberger's book, why environmental apocalypse never, why environmental alarmism hurts us all. And then I say that I read, hey, is that actually? No, it's backwards. And then I say that I read False Alarm by Bjorn Lomborg. And what is these people's greatest problem? Why have they become outcasts in the climate community? Because these are legit researchers. Well, because they don't conform. So they must be racists or bullies or something. They don't agree with us. These guys don't agree with us. Excommunicate them. Get them the hell out of here. They're dangerous. It's dangerous to not agree with us in all the things that we just have to do to save you from everything. These books make incredibly cogent, wonderful arguments explaining exactly what I just said to you, that prosperity is what helps people. And all this sustainable talk, sustainable, what does it mean? It just means that they need to cut down production. We need to stop being useless eaters. We need to stop with all the conspicuous consumption. That's what, trust me, it's coming. Your house is too big. You have too much property. We need rewilding. We need less stuff. We need less fossil fuels. In fact, we need less people. And if we can't get the less people thing done right away, because we have to beat this 2-degree mark that they're always harping on about, that if we don't do it, it's a calamity. The world's going to explode. It's not true. It's not true. I don't know what to tell you. It's not true. Read books written by very smart people that explain that what human beings do, and it's amazing because this is how this is all working. We are adaptable. That's our single biggest attribute, is that we are adaptable to our surroundings. And so you could say that people could be trained to live with less. The question is it going to help more people in the aggregate than what we were already doing? And the answer is a definitive no. And so why are they doing it? Because they're ideologues. They only see things one way. It's absolute. You can't even question the fact that anthropomorphic climate change is changing the world in drastic ways. And if we don't do something about it, all the animals are going to die. And we're going to die. So why wouldn't you want to do something? Because we're all going to die. We're going to die. We're going to die. Coronavirus, we're all going to die. Is it true? Fuck no, it's not true. Watch, I'm going to get coronavirus and die. And people are going to be like, this denier denied climate change and coronavirus. He was definitely toast. Oh, boy. All right. So, it's just like, I just want to have like conversations with people that can actually have a conversation without triggering all the time. And I suppose you could say I'm triggering right now because I'm getting a little frustrated because I've been talking about this stuff for so long and it's so obvious. And as soon as Klaus Schwab came up with his book, The Great Reset, I had already read The Fourth Industrial Revolution. I already had that one. And do you know what it's about? I'll tell you again in case you haven't seen any of my other broadcasts. It is about technological unemployment. So what happens when we have artificial intelligence that can replace 50% of the workforce? What happens? What do we do with all the people that we need to support that are now sitting around idle, breeding like rabbits? They just play video games and they consume stuff and they kill animals and they destroy the environment. Sound like pretty shitty people to have around, don't they? Now what are you going to do when they're sitting around? They're not even useless. They're not even useful as like cash crops anymore. They're not. We can't farm them. We can't farm them for taxes, which is what the traditional role of governments and bureaucrats is. The real productive people do things, like actual things, to improve society. And these people sit there and they talk about how they can get more of your stuff from you so that they can fix all your problems. But the problems are usually created by poverty. And so now they're going to induce poverty on people so that they have way more work than ever. And congratulations, you can get a job in the new normal, making sure we're tracking all of the problems that we cause. It's insane. But what is the book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, about? The book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, is talking about the fact that not only are we having artificial intelligence that's going to displace people, corporations have to adapt to this future. They have to think about it. They have to plan for it. Where are we going to go? How are we going to do this? How is this going to work? There's going to be all these people sitting around, and, that might be dangerous to us. That's what it is in a nutshell. It's like, what do we do with all these useless eaters? What do we do with all these people that are not productive for us in our society anymore while we live for 200-300 years with life extension technology that's right around the corner and probably is getting a lot faster with COVID-19 and all the contact tracing, which is basically like DNA harvesting from everybody. And then they're going to judge all the effects of all their beautiful new mRNA technology that's going to change the way that our genes literally express themselves. Notice I'm not saying... All right. So the problem is that all these people were going to be unemployed, you see? And, gee, that's an awful lot of stuff. That's an awful lot of stuff for an awful lot of people that aren't very useless to our new, wonderful, utopian society. Well, at least we can get them to all sit around their homes and engage in virtual reality instead of actually being out there and using up stuff that we need for our families. Do you get it? It's sociopathic in nature. The entire concept is, how does the corporate class protect itself from the future? And I think we're seeing the answer. And so the corporate class goes out there and they hire all these people who basically make those arguments for them. And they come up with all these reasons that people are racists and sexist. And isn't it wonderful that now we're gonna solve all the world's problems because we're heading into a future where it sure would suck if people actually asked for freedoms to live their own lives on their own terms. You getting in this yet? Are you? Like, I could probably be in that class if I wanted to. I don't think I'm highly intelligent, but I gotta, I'm pretty qualified. I can do stuff. So why wouldn't I just sell myself out to it? Because it's wrong. It's wrong to lie to people. It's wrong to mislead people. Even if you think that your new religion is the way of the future. But just be honest that you're stealing people's lives and you don't want them to travel because it's potentially a danger to you and your futures, you selfish pieces of shit. Can't we just work it out? Can't we just talk about stuff? Why do we have to keep upping the rhetoric? Why do we keep funding these Marxist organizations to destroy society? It's called the Hegelian dialectic. You need to look into it. Problem, reaction, solution. What's the problem? Too many unemployed people. What's the reaction? Get everybody pissed at each other. What's the solution? We lock them all down. What's the problem? People die. What's the reaction? We create something and we let it loose out of a lab where people are all dying, and then we blow it up way out of proportion and hyperbolize the shit out of it until everybody demands that we give them a solution, which is that we track everything they do. We shut down their ability to go from one place to another, and we just gather them all into places where they can be heavily surveilled. And we can calculate everything that they're going to use in the future down to the last calorie. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's like, this is not, I'm not that smart, but I'm just telling you, this is what's going on, and it could not be more obvious. Even if it's totally benign, and let's say that there is this, there's obviously not a new virus out there that's going around, with the exception that it seems to have been tinkered with. But I'm trying not to go for this whole thing that people want to do with the pedophilia, and you get guys like this because the answers that they're giving us, they don't make any sense. They don't make any sense. With everything else that's going on, it doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm saying. So, what is the plan transforming our world, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development? Preamble. This agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace and larger freedom. Well, you have to look at it now from the point of view of these people. These are ideologues. And what do they see as threats to peace? Inequality is one. Guns are another. The ability of one person to be successful over another person because they had put in a lot of time, and maybe it was even a family left them money, and so they are prosperous. But you have to not know about things like the Pareto principle to think that the only reason that people have unequal outcomes is simply because of structural racism or the fact that some people are born with more or born with less. People make fortunes all the time. Now, there's a lot of truth to the idea, and you know, I've said this before. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, it would seem JP Morgan, a lot of people that set up the systems the way that they are, including the medical system, the education system, the banking system, which is absolutely key. And the United Nations, for that matter. These were set up by some of the richest people in the world because they saw it. They saw all this stuff. They saw it coming. And they knew that the single biggest problem, and not only did they think it was a problem, they felt it was their obligation. Like they had been put in these positions of power for a reason. When you read the original guys, their reasoning for setting up Carnegie Foundation, the reason for setting up the things the way that they did. Because they felt it was their responsibility to take care of the earth. Does that sound familiar? You see, their pathology, they have imprinted into the very organizations that they created and built up and strengthened and put in positions of influence and power, and they taught people to do exactly what they needed people to do in order to create this future that they were planning for. So there's nothing that I'm saying, like, that is the fourth industrial revolution. That's what's driving it. That's the mentality. That's the ideology. But it doesn't need to be like some big conspiracy. Depopulation, yeah, Bill Gates talks about depopulation all the time. Does that mean that he actively wants to go out there and kill people? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But then you get all this weird stuff with he's hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, and Epstein's managing his money, and to go back to the one thing that I said when I first started the stream, which is, I don't know, what, 2 hours ago now? Lynn Wood was posting stuff about, oh, hey, guys, I came into this information about this elite pedophile ring. My computer's gonna blow up again. Look, and by the way, he was removed from Twitter this morning, which was funny. Apparently he's on Parler, but I went over there and I didn't see all the same stuff that he was saying. So now we gotta go look for this stuff because we're conspiracy theorists. Why will you just believe what we tell you? Because you're full of shit. Couldn't be more obvious that the news is full of shit. We know who they work for. We know what they're pushing. They're pushing this. Let's read it together. This agenda is a plan of action for... It's just so funny. Of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace and larger freedom. Okay, so you make it impossible for people to engage in wars and fighting, and if you just appease enough people, and you create this equality that you see as the biggest problem to achieving this stuff, problem solved, right? Utopia. Done. Hey, we fixed it. We fixed it, you guys. We recognize that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. You see, sometimes they let it slip there that, yeah, getting rid of poverty and allowing prosperity is what gets rid of poverty. You can't force poverty. We're declaring the war on poverty. What happened when they declared the war on drugs? What about the war on terror? How did that work out? It's the same organizations and the same people thinking the same way about how to solve all the problems that we have. It's just changed a little bit. It's a new objective. Now it's the war on poverty. Well, if I have some stuff and somebody in the developing world doesn't have stuff and they don't want to let us build any more stuff, Andrew's got 3 apples, and over here this guy's only got an apple core, and we're not allowed to grow any more apples, so give one of Andrew's apples to these guys over here. And you see, I'm like a racist or something because I go, hey, whoa. Who gave you the authority to do that? Climate change. All the rich people told us. They funded our foundations, and we all know that the biggest problem out there is inequality. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You see, the way that the free markets work, the pie gets bigger. These people have this conception, or at least they like to pretend that there's this conception. There's a big pie, and all that ever happens is you separate out slices, and if everybody gets an even slice, end of story. But who keeps making the fucking pies? In free market activity, you're making more pies all the time. That's why there's more. That's why people have been coming out of poverty. That's why they have the incredible leaps and bounds taking people out of poverty and saving lives, which also led to the incredible population boom. So now we have to do something about that, says Bill Gates. And I think people in the West, they probably live with too much. Oh, they could live with less stuff. Fuck you. Fuck you! Who the fuck do you think you are, you piece of shit? You don't own me. Maybe you think you do. But I'd love to punch him in the nose. He's inciting violence! Yeah. All countries and all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. So it's a big table full of ideologues that have almost no connection to the real world, and they sit around and they talk about bullying and racism and human rights and pollution and inequality, conspicuous consumption. Some people have lots and other people have not enough, and we have climate change, so we have to stop all the people that want more, and we have to spread out all the shit from the people that have it to the people that don't. That's their solution. I'm telling you right now, that's what's going on. But you have to know all this stuff first. I didn't wake up and know all this stuff. I'm not even sure I know it now. But when I'm not sure about something, guess what I do? I explore it. I look into it. I listen to people that have arguments on both sides of the equation, and I try to find out which one makes more sense. This doesn't make sense. The pandemic doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit the criteria. It's about something else. People are the virus. That's what public health teaches you. It teaches you the vaccine hesitation is an issue, and it teaches you the most important thing that we need to do moving forward in society to stop all the inequality, which is a direct effect on human health in their minds, and they're not wrong, but their solution to the problem is exactly backwards. Why? Because theirs has to have an end to it to implement it. Right? They sit around and they pontificate and they come up with these plans and goals and all these things they want to do. And without implementation, it's just mental masturbation, isn't it? I don't think these are bad people. I think these are ideologues. I think these are people that just went, oh, is it our time to shine? All right, we've been working on it for years. Let's just fix everything now. Yay! But you can't fix things like that. You can't change people like that. Number one, it's rude. Number two, I didn't elect you. I had nothing to do with putting people like this in power. And if I could talk to any of them, I bet you they probably seem like reasonable people. Until we started discussing various things. Like the stuff that they have been told to believe is 100% true without even thinking. Fucking react. They just react. How many people have you seen reacting in ways that just don't make sense anymore? And so you get people that would have probably been quite happy if Donald Trump won, and he probably did. He probably did. If you, I'll go to Epoch Times. Go to Epoch Times and watch an hour and a half. Watch an hour and a half video, and you tell me what you come out of it with. And you know, if you have the ability to see something without experiencing this cognitive dissonance that just seems to be messing with so many people nowadays.
The Trump campaign.
If you have the ability to actually hear an argument and go, well, geez, that's weird. Did all that stuff really happen? Yes! So you have to go look at it. And you can't dismiss something without at least spending the time looking at it. So, where was it? It was, and my wife's home. So it means the boys are home, and it could get noisy, but maybe she's taking them outside for bed. Where was it? Oh, maybe it wasn't on here. Well, that guy's not trustworthy. Don't listen to anything he says. Look, he can't even find a video. Look, man, I watch a lot of stuff, okay? Even more. You know, it's funny, I've had more time since I've been not working, and it just means that there's more stuff that I don't have time for. I aggregate all this stuff, and I really get through like a 100th of the stuff that I actually download to watch later. Ooh, I gotta watch that. Okay. It is. Yeah, so look, look. I'll post it underneath this video. I keep saying I'm going to do that, and then I never really get around to it. So that's something that I have to improve on my style. All countries and all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. We're implementing the plan. Are you getting that? We're implementing the plan. This is the plan that they agreed on in 2015. Where are we now? Well, we're into the plan. We're into the integration part of the plan. They literally call it the connection stage. They literally call it that. Not here though, but okay. So they will implement the plan. We are resolved to free the human race. Free the human race from the tyranny of poverty. No, I'm on the thing, okay? Love you. From the tyranny of poverty. See, poverty is not tyrannical. Poverty just is. And if we work towards eliminating poverty, that's how it gets eliminated. You can't declare war on poverty. It's just... the tyranny of poverty want to heal and secure the planet. They want to secure the planet. Like it's all, you can tell who this was written for. It was written for the people that might upset that security. Unless of course you're on the team. They probably have a secret handshake. They're like, ah. So. We are resolved to free the human race from the tyranny of poverty and want to heal and secure our planet. And one of the first things they suggested was rewilding. So how are they going to rewild, I wonder? You might have to get all the free people off that land, or all the people that are out there in the areas that you want to rewild. You might want to huddle them together into cities. They're not going to want to leave. They still have lives and jobs. And oh, no, they don't. No, we're good. We're going to put them on universal basic income. We're going to tell them to move into these giant cities where we can surveil them a lot easier with a lot less infrastructure. We're going to rewild everything else. And it's good. It's good. Oh, it's totally on board. Don't worry. There's nothing that they could possibly... Nobody can corrupt this. I actually want to sit down and just... Okay, I'm going to do this I'm going to do it in the next couple days. I'm not going to do it now. I don't have time now. I obviously ramble too much. But I'm going to sit down. We're just going to read it. I'm going to read the whole thing. If you find this interesting. And I really want people to come on this journey with me. To understand where we're going. Because this is where we're going. Because people are not standing up. And if you go to the Capitol and you say, I don't like the idea of a group of unelected officials telling me how my life is going to be and whether or not I wear a face diaper. If you don't like that, it must be because there's something wrong with you. You must be a conspiracy theorist, racist, sexist, blah, 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 blah. Because that's how they think about everything. That's every problem they need to stop. It's the people that don't agree with them. And why don't they agree? They sit down and they pontificate about what it is that makes those people not agree with them. And I just told you what the answers are. Okay. Okay, so, yeah.